what can you do with a sentence? I feel like that's a stupid question because obviously you can do a lot of things with sentence, and you're also very constrained by what you can do with a sentence, you know? There's the push and there's the pull. But a lot of what I've been drawn to read lately has been stuff that's interested in playing with sentences, playing with words, rather than things that are more plot driven, even though, you know, they both are important. But I just thought I would go through some of them because I think they're really cool and interesting. And I got these all from the library, so they're all like blank covered, which is a shame because I like reading books that are aesthetically pleasing. And these aren't like not aesthetically pleasing, but they're just kind of plain and it's less exciting, so I don't know. But the first book I want to talk about is called Stories in the Worst Way, and it's by Garielle Lutz. And this book is really interesting. I read a essay by Garielle Lutz last year about, I think you can find it online. It's about like the sentence, I think it's called, I forget what it's called. I'm gonna look it up right now because it's gonna annoy me otherwise. It's called The Sentence is a Lonely Place. And it's very crafty about like scientifically, not scientifically, but like analytically, like how a sentence can be constructed and what the very, you know, individual microscopic aspects of a sentence are and how you can play around with them. And it's really interesting, but it didn't thrill me, as I guess many essays or analytical things do not. But I was recommended to pick up this collection by her, and I did. And I'm really glad I did because it's one thing to read someone's explanation of what they can do, and then it's another thing to read them doing it, if that makes sense. So this is a collection of short stories, and a lot of them are really short, like some are just like a page, and I'm not done with it. I'm like halfway through it, and I'm not working through it chronologically. I'm kind of just flipping around and seeing what I gel with in the first few sentences, which is often what happens with short story collections for me. But I am really interested in what she's doing, or did, I guess. This came out like 30 years ago, with sentences. It's very abstract, and there aren't a lot of super clear plots, I don't think. It's a lot of things happening in different places and different kind of musings on different people and places and like the human condition. And that's not to say that there are no plots. There are definitely some stories that are like more plot driven, but a lot of it is just kind of more abstract than that. But what's really interesting is the way she uses words and sentences. And it's interesting because I think she like bends like grammar and syntax to kind of do what she wants in a sentence, even if it's not typical. And a lot of the things that she does, I was not sure if they were like grammatically correct or if they are just words used in places where words are not normally used, or words used unconventionally, which is always really exciting when something is, you know, because there are only so many words in the English language. I mean, I guess there are a lot of words in the English language, but it's easy, I think, to get bored by or become like accustomed to where a word goes and how a word is used. So I think when a word can be used unconventionally, it's really exciting and unexpected. And there were a lot of points in this where I had to read things a few times because I was like, that's not where that word goes. And then you read it again and you're like, but it works perfectly, or it changes the meaning of the sentence or the paragraph in a way that is obviously intentional. And just the cadence that she writes in is just like, I don't know, I'm not so good at describing things all the time, but this is just like so exquisite. I would really recommend it. And the other book I want to talk about, which is I think is really cool, is The Dog of Marriage by Amy Hempel. And again, there is no cover on this, so it's just a white book. It could be anything, I guess. But this book I think is really interesting for like similar and different reasons. So Stories in the Worst Way is interesting at the sentence level in a way that's very like maximalist. Like there's this kind of like laborsome feeling that you can read through it, I think, that these sentences have been so carefully constructed and like really poured over and made sure that they are exactly perfect and that they're doing what they need to be doing, which is really like a pleasure. I think there's like this really sweet feeling in opening a book and being able to tell that you're in like safe hands, like the author knows what they're doing and you don't have to worry about it, if that makes sense. Whereas this book by Amy Hempel, who is kind of in the same boat as like Raymond Carver in terms of like minimalist, even though I think both of them rejected the term minimalist. I think I read somewhere that she liked the term miniaturist. Like she's a miniaturist writer, I guess. But whereas the Lutz book is labored over and maximalist and there's a lot going on, the Hempel book I think cool because it is, by contrast, much more relaxed, I think, much more chill, I want to say, but it's no less impactful. So I think what Hempel does, which is really cool, is she, again, I just said, I don't think she used this term herself, but it's so minimalist, it's so pared down, like every word that is in a story or a sentence or a paragraph is a word that is essential to the meaning, and everything else is cut out. So there's nothing that doesn't need to be there is there. I feel like she's able to convey such a specific feeling of place and time and emotion just in a few words. I don't think it's as unconventional as the Lutz one in terms of doing the unexpected with language, but I think it's no less like expertly constructed. It's also not experimental. Like there's a story in here that's written in the form of like a parking violation response, and there is like a lot of cool kind of unconventional stuff going on. It's just cool and unconventional in a different way. I feel like these are both really good books to read if you're interested in what you can do with a sentence and how writing at the word and sentence level can change or can be like the whole point of a book and not just a cool feature of it. So maybe I'll just like read two of my like favorite passages from each of them just so you get an idea of like what I mean. Okay, so from the Lutz book, I'm gonna read a short paragraph from the story Waking Hours, which I think was my favorite story that I've read in it so far. I lived in an apartment defined as a state or condition of being apart. My life was cartoned off in 3 rooms and bath, one of several dozen lives banked above a side street. I convinced myself that there were hours midway through the night when the walls slurred over and became membranes, allowing seepages and exchanges from unit to unit. Hours when the tenants, all asleep except me, dispersed themselves into the air and mixed themselves with their neighbors. This, at least, accounted for dreams that rarely jived with experiences. So I think that's really cool. And then from the Hempel book, this is from the story The Dog of the Marriage. On the last night of the marriage, my husband and I went to the ballet. We sat behind a blind man. His guide dog, in harness, lay beside him in the aisle of the theater. I could not keep my attention on the performance. Instead, I watched the guide dog watch the performance. Throughout the evening, the dog's head moved, following the dancers across the stage. Every so often, the dog would whimper slightly. Because he can hear the high notes we can't, my husband said. No, I said, because he was disappointed in the choreography. So I feel like that's a good comparison between the two. But yeah, I definitely recommend both of these if you're interested in wordplay and sentence play. Yeah, I've been like a little disconcerted that my Madonna poster has been essentially looking at me, and you, the viewer, for this whole video, but you'll just have to deal, so.